Hi there, Rochelle here, Dreaming English, and Happy New Year 2021. Today, watching the Rose Bowl Parade and working on one of the videos that I'm going to be releasing later today. So, but I'd just say hi, and today I'll be talking to you about the history of the Rose Bowl Parade. This is the first time in 75 years that it's actually been kind of canceled, and they're really just doing a lot of like history of the parade, how they make the floats, which I love. All of the floats are made entirely of organic material and flowers, so I thought I'd talk to you about that. Hello there, Rochelle here, and my daughter and I, every New Year's Day, we watch on television. We watch the Rose Bowl Parade. So what is the Rose Bowl Parade? Basically, it's a parade where all the floats, and the floats would be these trailers on wheels. And they would have things like maybe it would be a Christmas theme. And there might be a person on there. And maybe she's wearing a dress. And she's waving to the people. And maybe there's some other building of sorts. And there's been all kinds of things. Like sometimes there was like dogs that were surfing. And there have been dragons and all kinds of different floats. You'll see some pictures of this Rose Bowl Parade below, some of the floats. So this year for 2021 was a little different because we are still in the coronavirus. We're dealing with the coronavirus. So they actually kind of changed it up. They canceled it back in July, and instead they had a lot of memories and history about this particular parade. So I thought I would talk to you about the history of the Rose Bowl Parade. One of the reasons that I love to watch this parade is that all of the floats on it have to be decorated entirely with organic material. What does that mean? It's roses, but it's also seeds. It could be corn. It could be carrots. It could be any kind of thing, but you can't alter it. So if it's corn, you can't pop it and make it into popcorn. You can't cook it up and make it, like, change the color of it. You have to use it as it is. You can dry it. So you can dry the seeds and the corn and use that. And so all of the decoration on the floats has to be made of organic material. So I really love the creativity of that. And so this Rose Parade, the Rose Parade, also known as the Tournament of Roses, it's an annual parade, always on January 1st, except when January 1st is on a Sunday, then it would be on January 2nd, and that's because the horses that used to pull the carriages that were all decorated. Like the horses, they would pull carriages that would be all decorated. So they would be attached to a carriage. And let's see if I can draw my carriage. It's not the best carriage in the world, but you get the picture. We have a door here for the carriage, and then they would decorate it all with the flowers, and there would be flowers all decorated into different themes. And that was what it was, the Tournament of Roses, and that's why they called it that, because it would be the horses pulling carriages that were all decorated entirely by roses or by different organic material. And they would have a football game. They would have a football game. It would be the Rose Bowl game. Here's my football. They would also have marching bands. And so marching bands would be a lot of bands from different high schools and colleges and universities that are playing instruments, playing drums. And one of the things that's really cool about whenever the marching band goes, all of their drums always have a beautiful rose on it, on the drum. So they would have marching bands from all over the country, sometimes from different countries, from different high schools and different colleges. And they would have different companies and organizations that would submit floats that would be, again, they would be a float that would be on wheels. And so in the Macy's Day Parade, which we watch in Thanksgiving when we have turkey, gobble, 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 we watch the Macy's Day Parade in New York City where it's cold. On January 1st, we watch the Rose Bowl Parade where it's nice and warm. You don't need your scarf or your winter coat. It's nice and warm. So the only times like that the actual parade has been interrupted was during World War II. It was interrupted in the years 1942, 1943, and 1945. And then this year, because of the coronavirus, we kind of had it canceled where they had some marching bands and they had some different performers singing, but they did not have floats. They did not have a big parade with people all watching, like a bunch of people all watching. There would be people here on the sidelines. There would be like seats for them to sit, and then people on the other side all watching, and people all watching from television. This year was more of the history of how they make the different floats, what goes into them. It actually takes almost a whole year. It takes a whole year of planning to plan the float, to design it, to start building it, all the mechanisms, because these floats usually move. Like sometimes there'll be a fire-breathing dragon or there'll be a volcano. Sometimes there have been volcanoes that actually have eruptions. And like I said, dragons or other things that are moving. So they're not static. They're not like all still, but they're actually moving. And that takes a long time to build it, to plan it. And the decorating actually happens. They start to decorate probably a week before. Everything that's dried, like all the dry seeds, would start to go on the float. But the flowers, actually, they only can live for like a couple days. So those go on just about 48 hours. So maybe they started to put all the decorations on, all the live flowers. Maybe these 3 days they might have started to put the decorations onto the float, all the live flowers. But the other dried things, it could have been maybe that they were putting those on the last couple weeks before the actual day that the parade would be. So this parade, when did it start? Over 100 years ago. It started in 1890. So that is 130 years ago. The idea of this was actually a professor who said, let's showcase California's mild winter and showcase to the people in New York who are buried in snow, And so a professor in California decided, his name was Charles Holder, he said, in New York, people are buried in snow, and here our flowers are blooming, and our oranges are about to bear. Let's hold a festival and tell the world about our paradise. So that was the whole idea. So they had a club in 1890 that organized all these horse-drawn carriages and decorated them with the flowers, and it attracted about 2,000 people to watch the parade that year, and they named it the Tournament of Roses. All right, so lastly, as I said, it all has to be organic material, and some of the things can be, so every inch of it that is decorated, not the steel and the wood that is the actual frame, but every part that's decorated, every inch of the float must be covered in flowers and other natural materials, which can include leaves and bark. So leaves would be the leaves on the trees, leaves on trees, the bark on a tree. So here's my tree. So they could use the bark or the leaves on the trees. They can also use seeds, the seeds that you use to plant the flowers and other things. And they can use things like seaweed and other organic materials. Like I said, can be corn and such. If you are lucky enough to go to Pasadena, California, a few days before the actual parade, you can actually go and view all of the volunteers decorating and putting all of the final touches, all these flowers on the different floats. That's one of the things that you can do. But you can't use any artificial flowers. Another thing, you can't artificially color. So if these flowers are red, you can't color them and make them orange. Or there's another thing that people do to make flowers different colors. Like if you have a white flower and you put some coloring inside the water, that flower could become orange and such. You can't do that. The flowers would have to naturally be orange in order to use them. So you can't change the color of the flowers. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.